In this video, I wanted to talk about my previous loyalty to Scientology and why a lot of the members of Scientology are so loyal. Well, it boils down to really a belief in Scientology, and you don't want to jeopardize your salvation. Now, I remember when I first joined Scientology and became enthralled with the idea that Scientology had all the answers I was looking for, and the answers to all mankind's problems. I was so thoroughly convinced that they had the path to freedom, or what they called the bridge to total freedom, that I wanted to do everything right. And when they told me that my total honesty with them was vital to my growth, I figured, well, I want to stay the course, and to give an example how that translated into a real life experience. I remember not all that long after I joined Scientology, our courses had just ended that particular evening, and one of the new members went up to me and he asked me what I thought of Scientology. And I could see he wanted to hear out of my mouth rather than just read in the Scientology books. And I said, well, you know what? I don't know what to think of Scientology because, you see, I'm working here partly in exchange for auditing, and they haven't given me any yet. Now, for those that don't know, auditing is Scientology's version of counseling. And their counseling involves a process using the e-meter where you're told that, you're going to be able to have a much higher IQ when you go through the process, and that you're going to achieve superhuman levels, be some kind of a Superman. And so, anyway, I basically told this guy, I didn't really know what to think just yet. I was hanging in there based on a hope of what it was going to do for me. Well, I remember um, feeling guilty for that conversation because I didn't express absolute confidence in Scientology in the way I spoke to this gentleman. I let him know that I was still hanging in there based on a hope. And so, because of my doubt, I went and I confessed to somebody in Scientology. I remember I wrote down. They had this thing where you have to write down if you had any overts and withholds. That was something you were withholding from Scientology, or you committed some sort of a sin in Scientology's version of what sin is. And I felt that my conversation was a sin, and so I told the whoever in my report that I had had this forbidden conversation. The funny part is, this gentleman walked up to me later, and he said that he had also told them that we'd had a conversation where we expressed doubt, and he just wanted to let me know, that he'd ratted on me. And it was funny the kind of loyalty we had. Again, we didn't want to jeopardize our salvation. Now, see, having a doubt in Scientology was something they always, like, if they knew I had a doubt, they'd have to deal with me through their ethics department, and they'd have me read the section on doubt. In this particular book, it's page 99. Here it is, the condition of doubt. And I'd have to go through this process of analyzing why I was doubting Scientology, and they would always make sure I was re-indoctrinated into believing that Scientology had all the answers. And if I were to tell them, for example, that somebody I met on the street told me they knew somebody that went clear and tried to kill themselves, they would always have a reason why I didn't need to concern myself with that. Well, there came a point where, I'd seen too much nonsense after working on staff for a good part of a year, and I had to leave at one point. And I remember how conditioned I was when I finally did leave. Well, let me rewind a little bit and talk about my departure and what that was all about. When I finally got up the courage to leave Scientology, I did it the right way. I did it on their terms, and basically, the way I did it was I went up to the woman in, I guess it was the ethics department, and I said I wanted to go back to school. And I remember they told me basically, well, if you leave, um, this is not a good thing, and you should be able to make it in Scientology rather than going back to school. But if you do leave, there's a way you can route out properly, and you're going to have to do what's called amends work for us, and also you're going to have to pay off any money you owe for services you receive, whether it be courses or auditing or anything that I hadn't actually earned. And so I remember going to the ethics department, and filling out the forms or talking to the lady, whatever it was I was doing. It's been so long, I don't remember the whole process. I do remember her looking at me in the face and saying to me, what you're doing is not okay. And so I proceeded to do the amends work for the Scientology mission, and I had to, clean ashtrays, mop floors, vacuum carpets, and I remember I wasn't supposed to talk to anybody while I was doing the amends work, but a lot of the other staff members that were used to seeing me there, they didn't realize that I was doing amends work. They just thought I was doing my normal duties there, and so they were talking to me anyways. And every once in a while, this one guy that knew I was doing amends work, he would go up to the other staff members. He'd tell them, you're not supposed to talk to him. I was being punished for wanting to go back to school rather than stay in Scientology. So anyway, I finally did leave, and I remember something I experienced. Shows you how strong conditioning could be. Um, when I when I left Scientology, I had a motorcycle at the time, and I remember after I'd finally completed the process and I was free, I got on my motorcycle and I took a nice little drive and I went to the top of this hill overlooking the city. And something inside seemed to speak to me in sort of a wordless way, and it said, why did you leave your future? You had a future in Scientology, and you walked away from it. And I remember at the time thinking, you know what? Whatever's speaking to me right now, you have no authority, whatever this is, because I left for good reasons. I tried to stay the course, and I saw too many contradictions. So, you know, put it where the sun doesn't shine, essentially, is my thinking toward that thought. But I look back on that moment, I realized, wow, it almost seemed like doubt had a, or it almost seemed like these, how do you say it? These thoughts had a dark component to them, like something was trying to convince me that I had done something wrong for Scientology, something inside of myself, or apparently inside of myself. But I remember, my logical brain overcame the doubt, and I knew that I did the right thing. I didn't feel bad about it. So anyway, just another story for the archives. I hope this came across clear enough to where you can track with what I'm saying here. Thanks for listening.